Welcome to PM Express Business Edition. Government over the years has rolled out several initiatives aimed at dealing with the unemployment situation in the country. Looks like maybe it hasn't gotten the desired result. Well, there's a new program on the block, the You Start initiative. The government this time believes that it will deal with the challenge of unemployment in our country. Well, what is this whole program or initiative about? And with whether it will be able to do the trick for the economy. And talking about the economy, well, several developments have happened in the space. So we'll get the thoughts of the Honorable Deputy Minister of Finance, Dr. John Kumar. Doc, how are you doing?
George, I'm doing well.
It's been a while. It looks like you're crisscrossing the country and talking about You Start. So tell me, what is the current state of this program? And let me first get you to understand. I knew that was announced in the budget, but just refresh our viewers' minds a little bit about this whole program, this You Start initiative.
All right, thank you, and greetings to all your viewers. You Start is a flagship program of His Excellency the President, his vision to address youth unemployment in the country on a more sustainable basis. And if you look at the statistics from the Ghana Statistical Service, between the ages of 15 and 35, out of the 30 million population, we have about 11.7 million people who are very young. And the statistics says that 19.7% of them are unemployed, which is quite a huge number, about almost about 1.2 million young people who are looking for jobs and cannot find them. So His Excellency the President wants to address this problem on a more sustainable basis, and that's why we are introducing the You Start. Of course, government has done a number of other interventions in the youth front. We had NAPCO, which will now be transitioning into the You Start. We have the Youth Employment Agency. We had the National Entrepreneurship and Innovation Program, and several other, now currently the alternative livelihood for employment in the mining areas on the Galamsey front, youth in forestry or afforestation, and several initiatives in the youth front to be able to create job opportunities. But we have seen that most of these interventions are usually not coordinated, from one ministry or the other, or one agency to the other. So government is introducing You Start, which is going to be inter-ministerial at the highest level, and then inter-agency. So all the various youth agencies, the National Youth Authority, IEA, NEIP, GA, all the agencies that look at youth employment and capacity building and opportunity for young people, will all be rallied together, and then we see how we can maximize our resources and create economic opportunity for young people.
Someone would ask, the economists always want to use the word cerebus paribus, or all other things being equal. As we speak right now, what is the status of this program in terms of it fully taking off? So when is it going to take off? And if I'm an entrepreneur out there, George Wiafe, when can I walk to the ministry, the agency, the bank to get the access funding to do this?
Yeah, so in this month of June, we are expecting to launch His Excellency the President will launch the You Start program. And so very soon, once it's launched, but ahead of the launch, we are doing a lot of stakeholder engagement. At the moment, because I told you it's interministerial, we just completed the local assemblies engagements with all the MMDCs across the country, the 261, in the company of Honorable Damboche and the local government ministers, the rest. We are also going to engage members of parliament, the CSOs, student organizations, even editors and the media. We want to rally everybody around the issue of youth job creation opportunities. But the You Start, even though it's a government initiative, the focus is on the private sector. We want to be able to create 1 million jobs in the next 3 years, and the government is targeting to spend about 10 billion cedis in partnership with the banks, the various commercial banks in our country, our development partners as well as government's budget arrangements.
Honorable, there are a lot of people out there who are worried that this hasn't been the last initiative by government or the first initiative by government in tackling unemployment in this country. And we've seen what has happened with those programs. How different will this program be that should get everyone excited? Or people say, listen, this is another government program in rewarding people who hold your party card?
Well, people always have legitimate concerns, and some of these criticism help to improve the programs. First of all, I believe that all the interventions government have rolled out in respect of job creation in our country in the past 5 years have been very effective. I mean, planting for food and jobs.
Does the data that you have support this to that effect?
Yes,
very,
very
it has
confident.
Brought unemployment down.
In fact, unemployment came down to below 7% until we had COVID coming in and people losing their jobs and reversing a lot of things in our country. But we saw, I mean, one district, one factory creating sustainable jobs across the country. We saw NEIP training almost 100,000 youth across the country. NAPCO picked 100,000 young people off the street. So these are things we can confirm. But going forward, we are looking at things in a more sustainable and scalable way or strategy than just, there's temporary arrangements that come in as a stopgap measure to hold the fund. That is where USTART is different. First of all, under the USTART, we are going to have different models. We're going to have the commercial model where only the banks will lead it. So you don't have to go through any government agency. You just carry your business proposal to your bank and they will speak to the USTART desk and the banks will deal with you on their own commercial arrangement. The only engagement government has with the banks is that because of our partnership with them, we want the interest rate not to be above 10%. The collateral requirement to also be eased or to be exempted so that people can have access to money to scale up their businesses. And of course, government will provide the first loss cover and liquidity means and all that to support the banks to be able to do that. And we believe that that will make the program more sustainable. But beyond the banking system too, government wants to do the district entrepreneurship program because we know that it's not all businesses that are strong enough to engage banks on commercial terms. And our focus is also to support young people with ideas who want to start. And those people have to be nurtured. So we are grouping them under the district entrepreneurship program, and where we are going to work with the various district assemblies, the various government organizations that we are talking about, NEIP, GEA, and the various partners, TVET, NYA, and several other government institutions, YEA, and the rest. So we believe that we can carry the USTART program to the grassroots level for every Ghanaian or every Ghanaian youth to have opportunity, whether you are in school or you are out of school, whether you've learned a trade or you want to start a business of your own. But beyond that, we also want to do the USTART Grace. That one is targeting the faith-based organizations in Ghana. So if there is a mosque with a business group or a church with business association in it, they can qualify to apply through those churches or mosques to partner with government so that we can also support various businesses in the church groups or the faith-based organizations to also create businesses. We know that some churches, some mosque groups have money that if government partners with them, they can also create businesses and scale up businesses within those organizations. And so we want to go out as much as possible to give opportunity to every Ghanaian everywhere possible. And then finally, we want to transition NAPCO into this USTAR program, beginning from maybe 1st July or something. I know there will be an official announcement. We have already engaged the NAPCO Secretariat, and there has to be a more sustainable way of looking at NAPCO. As we said, NAPCO was for a 3-year period which ended in October 2021. And so we have to have an alternative going forward. How do we make sure we support these young people who now have experience and ideas and creativity to have access to further training and working capital to be able to start their own businesses and scale up.
You brought in the NAPCO program, and there have been issues about funding for that and even paying these graduates on this program. And it comes back to my question about the UStart and how are you working to fund it. In the budget, we heard about e-levy support. And let's look at funding here and the sustainability of this initiative.
Yes, so the focus of UStart financing obviously will come from the e-levy. So e-levy will help government to appropriate every year in the next 3 years, 1 billion cedis every year for the next 3 years. And then our development partners will also be engaged to support with another 2 billion cedis for the next 3 years. And then the banks, various banking partners or participating financial institutions will also raise another 5 billion. So it is going to be both government partners and the private sector, especially the banks, coming together to raise these financial resources to create sustainable businesses in the country.
So I get from you that if George Wiafe is on this program, 2 years down the line, I wouldn't be down on the street with my placards complaining that I have not been paid.
Well, it's not going to be a monthly stipends program. You are going to be encouraged to create the Wiafe ventures and enterprises. So people should rather not be on the street claiming that Wiafe hasn't paid them. It won't be government hasn't paid. We want you to create the business that you add value and create the jobs for others. And let me make this clear. When we say we are targeting to create 1 million jobs, we are not saying every young man should become an entrepreneur. We are targeting up to 30% of this available workforce that are looking for jobs. That's about 300,000. If you are able to create about 300,000 businesses within the next 3 years, and they do an average of, say, 5 jobs on the average, some are able to do 50, 100, let's say they create 5 jobs on the average, then you have absorbed, that's about 1.5 million jobs created. So you could have, by then, absorbed all the 19.7% unemployment or brought it down to sustainable levels. So that's the objective. We want young people to be bold. And the problem of this country is not lack of ideas. I have engaged young people and I have seen that they can create jobs. One of the examples I always refer to was a young man who participated in the presidential pitch. His restaurant is now called Pizza Man and Chicken Man. It's very popular in Kumasi. He's a KNUST student. He didn't even win in the top 10, but I referred him to Quick Angels, and they supported him to start with his first restaurant, Chicken Man and Pizza Man. Today, as we speak, he has like 9 to 10 branches across the country. He has over 50 workers, and he's seeking to expand every day. So, I mean, right from school, he's now an employer. He's not looking for jobs with a certificate that he picked from KNUST. He's employing permanent staff. He has 20 bike deliveries for people who buy and they have to go and deliver. And this has been achieved within a very short time. So I believe there are several examples of those in fashion, manufacturing, liquor, all kinds of ideas. I mean, there was these young people who won one of the pitches from the north. Well, I know Aisha Liman is doing children food. They call it baby foods in Gulu in the north. She's been able to put up a factory as a result of NEIP support that she received. We have some of them who are supporting farmers, shea butter farmers, women in the north. They collect the waste, the shea butter waste from these women and use it to manufacture briquette for exports and even the local market. Okay, so and they have about 100 outgrowers with these shea butter women who are earning extra income from the waste that they were throwing away. And I believe so many young people in Ghana have different creative ideas that if they get the support, they will be able to add value to whatever business ideas they have, create jobs for themselves first and also engage other people.
One of convinced Kobna Mensah, who is a young entrepreneur out there, that if he's not holding your party card,
Yes.
he's still going to get support from this program.
Yes, business has no party colors. And the processes of application and engagement does not require you to show your party colors. All you need for your identification will be your Ghana card. The rest is what business concept you have. Because I personally believe, and I mean, I've been head of NEIP, and anybody can confirm, when you even support, and there were people who were NDC youth organizers who received NEIP funding, and they have employed known NPP activists who have the skills to support their business. And if you support an NPP activist who has the business, there are some of them who have also employed known NDC activists who have the skills to deliver. So business has no party colors, and this country is not for any political party. It's today NPP, tomorrow it will be NDC, but the nation will move on. So we are not looking at political colors, we are looking at ideas. Engage us on your creative business concepts and go through the processes for qualification. And I strongly believe you don't have to show your party colors. If you can show us your creative ideas and how you can be supported, especially the commercial model where you're going through the banks. You don't even need to talk to any government agency or official. Engage your bank, go with your business proposal, and they will take you the processes and you qualify.
For you, at the end of the day, what will bring that smile on your face that a lot of people, the Ghanaians, have been supported, or what will be for you that smile that will be on your face?
The smile always has been when I meet people with positive feedback. Yesterday, one of the businesses we gave tax holiday, Prac, is into printing of rubber products and toiletries. He was in my office to update me on how the business is doing because of the facility, the 5 years tax holiday he received. He's been able to expand his business, and he now has over 80 to 90 workers, okay, in Kaswa. So when you get that positive feedback, when you enter a restaurant, only to go and eat, but the manager walks to you and said, it is by your effort that this business is here, and because of you, we have 30 permanent workers or 50 permanent workers, and we are looking to scale up. It is the feedback, the testimonies, that indeed, in the next 3 years, when Ghana is looking at opportunities for young people can testify that there are now existing opportunities for our country, that we can walk to banks and get loans to scale up our businesses at terms that makes it possible for us to grow. That is the motivation for us when we set out to push for YouStart, for NEIP, and for any initiative from government that seeks to create economic opportunities for young people.
This is PM Express Business Edition, as we looked at unemployment and the economy. How would this government initiative, the YouStart program, help stabilize things for us? And if you're a young, budding entrepreneur out there, how would that do the trick? We'll take a short break and be right back as you talk about unemployment and the economy, and how would this government initiative deal with this challenge in the economy. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to PM Express Business Edition, as we talk about unemployment in this country and the economy as large, and the government YouStart initiative and how it can deal with this challenge. You engage in the Deputy Minister of Finance, Dr. John Kuma. And Doc, we're talking about funding for this program.
Yes.
And e-levy was one of the critical funding for this program.
Yes.
You're supposed to start this thing in July. One would ask that one of your seed source of funding is e-levy. How is it doing?
It's doing well. It could be better though. There's always some latitude when you put new initiatives on tax out, and so the expected revenues are not being met as of now. But at least we thank God that we have been able to introduce a tax handle that is also going to contribute to the revenue mobilization of our country in the long term. So one of the key financial anchors of the YouStart is going to be the revenues from the levy. And of course, Ghanaians have always said we are not afraid to pay taxes, but we want to see what are you going to do with the taxes that you collect from us. And one of the benefits of levy will be helping to sponsor the U-Start program, which has objective to create dollar millionaires for our country. We may not be able to create billionaires in Ghana yet, in terms of dollar billionaires, but at least we should be able to create dollar millionaires. Young people with ideas should be able to expand. And now that we have AFTA, with Ghana as the headquarters, our market is not even Ghana. We have to look at West Africa, we have to look at Africa, and we have to look beyond our continent. And all that come when people have space within the economy. They know that the ideas can grow, and the ecosystem supports them not just with money, but capacity, access to market, access to finance, sustainable and patient capital, and mentorship so that they can grow. And levy is making it possible through U-Start for young people to benefit in this country.
I asked this question about how is it doing because the success of this initiative also will be critical on the levy. And I remember 2 or 3 months ago, even 6 months ago, we had a discussion last week, and you pointed to us that you've done your research and you talked about how there will be some attrition rates and all the rest. Per the projections that you did, and you always work out the numbers monthly, what will come in and all the rest. Are we meeting that target, or is slightly behind?
Slightly behind, but we are on course. We believe that, and at the moment, we are still not on the common platform for all the stakeholders who collect, the levy to be on at real time. So obviously, we'll still have some down times. But I believe from July, when all the telcos and all the stakeholders who are supposed to collect, the banks and everybody, are on one platform, under the supervision of the GRA, and we can know in real time. So we're going to see a lot of improvement.
Within this affects your U-Start program because of the seed funding that should come in to start this program? No.
Government is prepared to start the U-Start. And once the levy is coming, we will have enough to scale it up. But for now, it's been budgeted for in the budget. Government is ready to roll it out.
How much have you been able to collect so far?
Well, I don't have the figures with me, but I believe mid-year budget is coming. The finance minister will announce so far how levy, how much has contributed.
This was supposed to complement other revenue initiatives as well. On the broad, and not to get into the actual numbers because that was not mainly the focus as well. In terms of revenue, are things improving, or listen, it's picking up slightly? We are hoping that all other things being equal, it will improve as you go on.
Yes, we need to really improve our revenue mobilization in the country. Last year we did 12-13% of our GDP in terms of our domestic revenue mobilization. The target is to be able to do above 16%. At least if we hit 20%, that would be very, very positive for the economy. Government has targeted to raise 81 billion cedis, through GRA by the end of the year. I believe that we are on good course to achieve that. Last year, we gave them a target of 57 billion, which they achieved. And we believe that this year, GRA is on course to meet its revenue mobilization.
Honorable, what would you tell those who might argue that the biggest antidote to unemployment is stabilizing the economy? And if the economy is stabilized, Pakwesi, Ajo Mensah, in Kumasi, and they would all get jobs. Companies will expand, they will employ them, and they might not necessarily take a government initiative to deal with the unemployment situation in the country.
Yes, I totally agree, to a large extent, because you need that fiscal space and that enabling environment for even that business that you want to support to do well. But you can have an excellent enabling environment with no growth opportunities. And you have to be deliberate as a country. No country has done well on job creation without that deliberateness to support the system and grow the ecosystem. So we need both. It's not mutually exclusive. We need to ensure that we have fiscal stability. We need to ensure that your inflation is at reasonable levels, exchange rates are at reasonable levels, and all the indicators that we talk about. You need that exchange rate stability so that you don't disrupt the market. And you need to also look at your tax reforms so that you don't overtax, few people and allow others through the net and create a lack of uniformity on the economic front. So you need that economic stability, but at the same time, you need the deliberate interventions of government to promote certain ideas and individual businesses and position them as anchors of the economy. And we need both to do well in this country.
Honorable, getting back to another development, inflation 27.6%. I mean, for somebody who is so concerned about wealth creation, this is another thing that is stealing that wealth away from us.
Yes.
Are you worried about this new inflation levels?
Yes, government is extremely worried about the levels of inflation, especially if you look at our annual target for 2022, which was 8% plus or minus 2. So we didn't expect to go beyond 10%. So if you are hitting 27.6%, that is extremely worrying. And government is taking a number of steps. Obviously, the Bank of Ghana has announced a number of monetary policies. The Ministry of Finance, the last time Cabinet met, they also supported a number of fiscal measures, which we believe gradually is holding up. We'll begin to see the reverse. These are temporary difficulties that we are in, but we strongly believe that we'll begin to see the reverse of it. I believe that, the main reasons why we are seeing these increases in inflation is as a result of fuel and food prices and maybe the fiscal environment. But some of it are as a result of external factors that when you talk about it, Ghanaians don't want to hear. But that's the reality. For instance, before the Ukraine and Russia war, crude price was about $60 or sometimes even $55. As soon as the war started, it jumped to $140. Now that is even coming down, it's about $120 on the world market. And that's the price we have to go and buy and bring to the economy. And so there's no way that you are not going to see increases at the fuel, at the pump. And once there are increases at the pump, it affects the tractor driver, the food that you are cutting from the villages to the towns and everything. So transportation is affected because of external factors. And then also, of course, COVID, one of the symptoms of COVID recovery across the world is hyperinflation, and it's every country. So these are temporary global dynamics that we all have to go through. But in the end, we're going to have a stability in the world economy, and Ghana will also be a beneficiary. So the steps we have taken, we believe that it will work eventually to stabilize our economic front and ensure that we are able to come back within expectations of our fiscal targets.
Some will say that if you look at the drivers, and you spoke about transport, fuel, and food, some have argued that maybe revenue is critical, and it's a fact, but we have been so conscious about revenue that the inflation now is robbing that revenue that we've collected. And some are saying that if government could have done something about fuel, could have done something about food, we could have tamed inflation and put it under control.
Yes, and that's exactly what government is doing. And then sometimes when these things begin to happen, you don't have to panic. You have to find out what are the drivers of this inflation. Are they more of imported inflation? Is it on the demand side or the supply side? Because if you are not careful, you're going to introduce policies that will not address. For instance, if you think it's a demand push inflation, and so you have to raise your interest rates or raise the monetary rate in the system, and it turns out that it's rather a supply chain problem, then you are not addressing the problem. And if it's external, then you are not addressing the problem. So we all have to also observe whilst we take steps to see how our responses to these interventions are also yielding results. But at the end of the day, I strongly believe that as government, the measures we are putting in place, both monetary and fiscal, will definitely help to address these levels of inflation which we haven't seen in a very long time in our country. And we've been there before, and we're able to bring it down. And I believe that the announcement of the number of interventions we have done will also help to address the inflation.
You talked about mid-year. Are we going to see some additional measures to be put in place to not a wait and see, but to deal drastically with it? Because some are saying that, I know you're a champion of wealth creation, and it's robbing that wealth.
Yes, I mean, definitely. We need that stable fiscal environment to be able to create wealth. No two ways about that. And government is happy to do that. Definitely in the mid-year budget, government is going to announce further fiscal measures that will ensure that we are able to achieve our fiscal targets for 2022.
Do I get from you that when it comes to the petroleum taxes, it's a no-no because, listen, we can't afford to go out to borrow, and therefore we have to look within?
You see, it's a very tight situation. And sometimes, if you reach your threshold as a government, then you don't have a choice. You will intervene. And we've intervened several times. There have been times when government has allowed or directed NPA to suspend some taxes or tariffs on petroleum. And there has been times we need to restore it in order that we'll be able to raise these revenues to meet the same demand. Because whilst you are complaining about the cost at the pumps, which is affecting your transport, your workers are also demanding their wages and salaries to be paid on time, which will all come when you are able to raise enough revenues to address these demands that come. So it is not a question of one issue, and once you address it, everything is resolved. It's the dynamics of where do you find the middle point. If you are able to pay your workers your salaries on time, and yet they are facing inflation and higher prices at the pump, which one do you deal with? You go and pay the pump prices and delay on their monthly payments, or what? So that is sometimes the difficult choices that if you're a government, you have to face. And we acknowledge and we empathize that these are difficult times. And the only comfort that we want to always give to Ghanaians is that while we understand what we have to do to bring back the economy, and in fact, His Excellency the President told us ahead in most of his COVID media engagement in the past that we know how to bring back the economy, but we don't know how to bring back human life. That meant that we were taking decisions at the time that will bring us into a situation where we are today. But when we get there, we will all, once we stay together and put our plans together, we'll be able to reverse and come back to normalcy. And it's not a Ghana situation. Yesterday I was watching CNN, and California, one of the states, has their fuel at the pump above $10, which they have never seen before. UK has the same complaints. In fact, as for UK, some economists are even predicting a complete slowdown of the economy beyond recession. It's almost everywhere there are difficulties. China just relaxed lockdown rules in some of their states. So even though we are out of COVID, we are still in COVID. And so in terms of the global supply chain, no country is out of the woods yet. And that is why in Ghana, we are also facing these storms. But the assurance is that we will be back soon to normalcy. We'll restore these fiscal targets, and Ghana.
What period are we looking at? You spoke about inflation. Are we looking at when the harvest season drops in, we might see that slide down? Because you had said another engagement about you being so optimistic about your single-digit target, and some say that with all these challenges, what is influencing your optimism? Are you seeing something that we are not seeing, Honorable?
Yeah, in fact, if you watch the trend, it has started slowing down, even though we saw an increase.
The rate of increase has slowed down by 0.2%.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it means that the measures are beginning to work. So let's give ourselves maybe after the third to fourth quarter, we should be able to see a more reversal in the trends of inflation. But I believe in the positive steps that we are taking, we're going to see reverse of the situation.
Honorable, are you making Ghanaians appreciate this challenge you're going through and the admission on your part that there's a challenge and we are committed to stabilizing things?
Yes, maybe we should do more communication and engage Ghana. That, yes, it's not like we don't know what is happening. We are aware what is happening, except that these are inevitable recovery processes of every economy which has been through lockdowns and COVID. It's a necessary storm to go through, but we will come out. And we understand how to come out, and we are working on it. We want to assure them that it will get better.
It's definitely going to get better. That's according to the Deputy Minister of Finance. It's PM Express Business Edition as we talk about unemployment in this country, the economy, and how governments use that initiative together with other initiatives is going to help firmly stabilize the economy. We'll take a short break and we'll be right back. This is PM Express Business Edition. Welcome to PM Express Business Edition as we talk about unemployment in this country, the economy, and how governments use that initiative is working hard to deal with this challenge. Honorable, let's talk about expenditure, our debt levels. Some are worried, some are even afraid that very soon it could be classified as high risk of debt distress. Are you worried about this as well? And does that worry influence your actions and measures being taken to deal drastically with the situation?
Yes, in fact, definitely we are not in the best of positions when it comes to our debt levels as a country. I mean, any debt level that's above 70% of your GDP is quite on the high side and tends to place a lot of constraint on what you can do and cannot do. What it means is that we have to now begin to see a lot of cuts in our expenditures. And government already announced early this year, on how we have to be able to cut up to 30% of discretionary expenditures in our country. Obviously, that is going to affect a number of things. It will slow down your economy and even can even affect your growth targets. But we don't have a choice. We definitely have to bring back expenditures within sustainable levels. And government is committed to doing that.
Your cuts that you announced, has it taken effect really?
It's ongoing. And every MMDA or ministries and departments, even in this mid-year budget, we have started our re-engagement with the various ministries and departments and asking them to resubmit their priority areas, taking into consideration the various cuts that government announced through the cabinet retreat. And so, yes, it's taking effect, and the releases that are going to the ministries have been affected. Ministries are not getting what they were budgeted for. In fact, the reduction is taking place.
Some have said that our biggest challenge over the years has been overruns, and it's always a challenge. What are you doing this time around to ensure that a George Wiafe ministry doesn't find excuse a way around the stuff to still overrun because of the impact on the bottom line if you were a company?
Exactly, and this commitment to expenditure measures is very key, that we cannot overspend our budget ceilings. And that has been the problem with some of the interventions that we have seen, especially in the agri sector, where more contracts for fertilizer supplies were given beyond the budget ceiling, and it tend to affect the supply and payment to contractors. So these are very, very key. We need to stay disciplined and committed to the budget commitment controls that if this is your ceiling, you stay within it, you don't go beyond that. And that will cut down on the backlog and deficits. And we need that. We don't have a choice. And that is why, the only reason why many people will advise you go to IMF. Because the only discipline IMF gives you is to ensure that you can't go beyond that. But when you are asked to discipline yourself, maybe your government or the ministries or MDAs will feel reluctant that why is the finance minister or the president cutting down our budget. But we all need to be in that understanding that it's not a choice that we have to make. We are in a situation where we have to impose that discipline on ourselves as a country and be able to cut the expenditure to that level so that we don't go and bring onto ourselves a headmaster who will come and ensure that we do the same thing. Why don't we achieve it? Why don't we enforce it upon ourselves so that when we are in a position to now do more, then we can do. So we should be able to cut down on a number of expenditures in our country. And of course, everything should be on the table when it comes to these expenditure cuts. And once we are firm and fair and objective to ourselves, we will be able to salvage the economy.
Honorable, with these expenditure cut measures and all those things that you're doing, which wraps up to the fiscal situation, is it giving the necessary confidence to the investing market and even the offshore investor? Because some are saying that maybe our challenge, since you spoke about the IMF, our biggest challenge now is that investor confidence in our fiscal situation. And that is where the problem is.
Exactly.
Maybe what you're doing is still not giving that market confidence. You go into the market T-bills, you're struggling to raise the funds and all the rest.
Yes.
That is the challenge.
I mean, there's no two ways about it. We need to restore that investor confidence. And the only way you do that is to show that you mean what you have said. If you don't have that credibility, then you just ask that you're going to do A, B, C, D, and they don't see the results in the actions of government, then obviously they cannot trust you. And that is where they will force you to say, go to an IMF, because they know that if you cannot discipline yourself, then an external headmaster has to come and discipline you so that you stay within the target. But I believe that when we all understand that we can do it, even with some level of discomfort, but it's achievable, and we are able to explain. And so far, I believe that government has seen a lot of support from the various ministries and agencies, and even Ghanaians to a large extent. Appreciate the difficulties that we are all in and how best we can come out of the situation. So I believe that we need that discipline to be able to hold forth the economy.
You're taking the measures that you have to take, and some would say maybe it is a delaying to get the necessary response as quickly as we're all looking forward to, and that investor confidence is delaying. Some have said that maybe hasn't the time come to revise your notes when it comes to whether a fund program possibly coming on board to help with that investor confidence for you?
Yes, Ghana has always been a member of the fund. We have been on it 17 times. I'm not sure that's our last time we'll be on it.
Definitely.
If it becomes impossible, and it is the only alternative to salvage our economy, we will look at it. But where we are now, we think that we are in a position to salvage the economy or to try the homegrown policies that we are also adopting. It is not every time that, going to the IMF, I think, is the easiest of decisions to make at the moment in the circumstances.
Really honorable.
Yes, yes, because if that restores the confidence you are looking for, then why don't you do it? But you should be able to prove that at least you also have ideas, you have alternatives that must work, and that is when maybe you have exhausted all your programs and plans and you are unable and you are looking for help, then that is...
So the door has not been shut to the fund?
Ghana,
we have nothing to do with the fund. We won't do the fund program.
We haven't. We haven't said that. I mean, we work with the fund. My minister just returned from Washington on the annual
spring
IMF
meetings and
meeting.
several engagements.
Ghana always works with the fund, except that what we are saying is that we should be able to grow ourselves out of the fund. But you see, these two difficult global economic situation has plunged so many countries into a very economic difficulty. The COVID, post-COVID, and the Ukraine war. It's made the world economy very difficult. Okay, and even countries that had access to the capital market and all that, because of the war in Ukraine and the various sanctions around, you can't even access the capital market. Whether you are downgraded or upgraded, it's closed up. Yeah. So it's a difficult situation globally for everybody. And I just want to clear that air that Ghana is against the fund. We haven't said that. We just believe that we should try what we believe should work. And if it doesn't work, we have always worked with the IMF. And even the last time when they were giving SDRs, Ghana got $1 billion from the fund. And so we are not enemies. We continue to work with them.
If it's necessary, you would do it when your programs doesn't work?
Yes, if it's necessary, if our programs fail us and we are not able to get the confidence and the resource and the fiscal space discipline which we have to impose upon ourselves,
we do it.
Then you don't have a choice. And that is what will work for our country. Our objective is to build our country and to grow it. It's not to destroy it. And if it is the only alternative available, except that you don't want to do it for lack of trying, we have to be able to show that we are able to do it.
Somehow I was saying the only thing delaying this government is because it would be politically suicidal for government to say that even we would open the door to talk to the IMF. Politically. Economically, it's a prudent decision, but politically, it's unwise.
Well, it's not about politics when it comes to your economy. And I believe that with COVID and the global situation, Ghanaians will understand that, but for COVID, there's no way we should be even discussing IMF at this time. When President Akufo-Addo picked this economy and started growing it an average of 7%, we saw how this economy was doing so well until, the global crash of COVID came, and the impact has been so negative. And now that you also have this Ukraine war raising fuel prices all over the world and increasing food prices across the continent, even affecting fertilizer supplies and wheat and flour and bread. So yes, these are very two dangerous economic events that have happened globally to position every economy in the world in a very tight corner.
Honorable, whilst you outline some of these expenditure measures and whip everybody into line, some are still questioning government's commitment to prudence and expenditure in these times. And one will cite typically with the advancement that are said to have been made to the National Cathedral at this time. Some are saying that morally, it doesn't send the signal that government is being prudent. Even though it might be a payment that was needed, it could have been deferred looking at the time.
Well, that one I disagree. Government must still be committed to its priorities. The fact that we are in difficulty doesn't mean that the allocations and budgetary arrangement you have made, you cannot spend them. But you spend them within the limits of your own cuttings. Okay. And I believe that these are expenditures that were budgeted for in the budget under various schedules. Government continues to pay salary for workers. We continue to pay road contractors. We continue to pay various commitments of government as and when it's necessary. And as long as those payments are within the prioritized formula, then there's no difficulty about it at all.
Is the consolidated fund in the red, or government is being prudent? Because we've had several, even Parliament, you're a member of Parliament, there have been complaints about payments being delayed and all the rest. What is happening? Is it?
No, we are not.
Are we in the red?
We are not in the red, but the truth is that Ghana, like several other countries, run a deficit budget. When you run a deficit budget, what it means is that you don't have enough at any point in time. You are spending more than you are getting. So some of your payments get delayed. So that's the reality. It's just a deficit process, but it doesn't mean we are in red.
The payments will be made.
Oh, we made, definitely.
Including Parliament.
Oh, yes.
Which you are a member of Parliament.
Yes, I mean, we have always been paid. So, of course, as for delays, it's not only in Parliament. And the way our system runs, sometimes we are a quarter or two ahead of expenditure. So government is always in arrears because of how the system runs. Okay, like I told you. So there will never be a point in time where there is zero commitments or liability on government. Government will always be in debt. And the important thing is the machinery should be able to generate enough revenues to meet the commitments as and when they become due.
What about your final word to those budding youth entrepreneurs out there who you have gotten them excited by this, your Youth Start initiative?
Yes, my final word to young people of Ghana is that let's be courageous. We have to turn the fortunes of our country. We can change the narrative of our country if we create wealth, if we are able to expand the economy and create more economic opportunities. But we are the answer to the problems. We are the solution that we speak about. So let us take advantage of the opportunities that government is offering us. The partnership request from government, that we take up our own mandate, we take up our own destinies onto ourselves and create jobs with the ideas and creativity and the innovations that God has blessed us with. We can change the story of Ghana if we change our own stories by believing that through the Youth Start initiative, we can have access to capacity building, access to patient capital, and grow our businesses to change our circumstances. And I believe as we change our individual circumstances, we'll be changing the circumstances of our country and build a wealthy and prosperous nation. Thank you very much, Deputy Minister of Finance. I appreciate it so much for your time.
And some would say that time will be a better judge and whether this program or this initiative will bring about that change in dealing with the unemployment situation in our country. This is PM Express Business Edition as we looked at unemployment and the economy and how government is working to use this initiative to deal with unemployment in the country. Have a great day.